Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Thursday's Thought for the Day. Hope you're well. Hope you've been having a good week. We're going to have a couple of warm days, I think, which is nice at this time of year. This week, I've been looking, reading, hearing the issues around Facebook. You might have seen on the news about the inquiry in the US about social media platforms such as Facebook and Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, a variety of others. Now, these are platforms used by people all over the world, and they have huge influence. And in the past days, evidence has been heard in relation particularly to Facebook. When it's been alleged that Facebook chooses profit over safety and uses hatred and divisiveness to sell. Now that might be a simplistic sort of analysis of a whole range of complex issues, but nevertheless that's something that is of concern. Facebook made over $1 trillion in 2020. And they say they've worked hard to deal with these issues and point out, and I think this is a fair point, that because it's an instant and spontaneous form of communication, they're not going to get it right every time. Now, the person giving evidence doesn't believe that there are malevolent individuals at Facebook, but points out that Facebook makes more money when people consume more content. Now, people enjoy engaging with things that bring out an emotional response, and unfortunately, often anger is the thing that drives the interest. So the more anger they get exposed to, the more they interact, the more they potentially consume, and the more money Facebook makes. Now, it's easy to point the finger at Facebook. And there's no escaping, though, that they have a great responsibility in these issues, and they need to do a lot more than they're doing. But placing the responsibility entirely on them does have the effect of taking away our individual responsibility, our individual understanding of these issues. Now, I use Facebook. You're probably watching this on Facebook. I find it useful and informative. I like to keep in touch with some distant friends, and I like to share things that I think may be of interest. But I've also been angry and have responded angrily to certain content that I have found hateful, thinking I'm doing the right thing by challenging those hateful attitudes. The sad reality is that my angry response prompts another angry response for someone else and actually perpetuates the thing that I was challenging in the first place. It's a vicious circle. And it's not a proper debate, it's just people having a go at each other, basically. And I found it interesting last year when I did a Thought for the Day, prompted by the Oprah Winfrey interview with Prince Harry and Meghan. The points that I was making were not really about Harry and Meghan, but of course that was the little headline. The thought that I was trying to get across was about how quick we are to judge without knowing the full story about people's situations, and how we fail to really listen or explore, but just respond to those headlines, those sort of snappy things that arise on Facebook, or even the headline in the newspaper. And that Thought for the Day got more views than anything else I've done on here. It actually got 38,000 views and many, many comments. In fact, Tom had to turn off the comments section. And the comments of many betrayed the fact that those making comments had completely missed the point of what I was trying to say. They'd actually seen the headline and continued with their preconceived notions, many of them angry or insulting. So what are we to do on an individual? Challenge when we see a hateful comment only for it to deteriorate into something perpetuating or even increasing the hatred, or try to say something that then becomes in danger of being misconstrued, or we just ignore the hatred. I don't think we can just ignore the hatred, but we have to look at what we might do. And I've just read an article by the Dean of Copenhagen Cathedral, and he says, when we're trying to determine what is true and false, because often it's the falsities in these situations that start to create and perpetuate the hatred. He says that we need only to look at Jesus, whose self-giving love, primarily to those who have no one to turn to. He says that all kinds of hate speech, any kind of hate speech, contradicts Christian principles and must be opposed. I find this interesting, and I'd never heard it before. He says he finds the world currently, it finds itself in the field of the Lord, which apparently is a Danish expression and means in a completely helpless and perplexed situation and counting on help from above. He goes on to say that there is good news in that the truth was revealed to humankind out there in the field of the Lord, in the shepherd's field outside Jerusalem. And when we're judging what is fake and hateful and what is truth, we have to use the criteria of that man on the cross, Jesus, his self-giving love. Christ's words and deeds are examples of the criteria for truth and love. And that must be our essential focus in our engagement with social media, as well as in our day-to-day lives. Would we feel free to say hurtful and hateful things to people we meet face to face, that people so easily do online? Even on our local Facebook pages, which I see, many things are fairly innocuous, but there are often abusive posts about others, people who, live in this community. And the Dean of Copenhagen Cathedral, he says, truth is never unambiguous. And we live in an imperfect world where good and evil are often intertwined and not always possible to distinguish one from another and difficult to navigate. And you see that on social media, that something that's seemingly innocuous, that people can readily agree with, is often used by hate-filled organisations to get people in. I'm thinking in the past, really, and I think they've been banned from it. People like National Front and those sort of on the right wing towards fascism. They put things that people can't really disagree with. Support our veterans and so on and so forth, and people click like and so on, and it leads them into other things. Those are the things that where you see maybe good and evil intertwined, where it's not possible necessarily to distinguish one from the other. But because of that, we can't just leave it to social media companies to deal with. We have some responsibility too, and that responsibility as Christians means that we have to act appropriately with love, but also work to find effective ways of challenging misinformation and hatred. Standing in the field of the Lord, we need to be fully aware of where the ultimate truth comes from. We'll continue to watch that situation, and it's a very difficult area that we need to be concerned about. So I'll speak to you next Monday. In the meantime, you take care of yourselves, and God bless. Bye-bye.